People, Deluded, I'm back again. You know how it is at this point. We're in Soho Square and yeah, there's no pigeons bothering me today. For those of you that have seen my last couple of videos, they're starting to arrive. But just a bit of random topics on my brain. I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going to try to get out of here as quick as possible because I don't want to waste any more of your time. But I wanted to talk about two young players briefly, Medley and Harry Clarke, because if you look at Arsenal's centre-half situation, obviously we need a centre-half in the short, medium and long term. Short term, we just need someone now because we're down to our bare bones. Chambers is out. Sokratis should play against Bournemouth, but he's had knocks here and there. Luiz has been suspended. Injuries, loss of form, suspensions, whatever you want to call it, is going to happen to every team. And we know Arsenal's spine isn't there. We know our centre-half options, if we're real with ourselves, are not really there, really. Because I would say, obviously, since Arteta's come in, and really, Luiz has been all right at Arsenal. He's just shown that he's not the guy. And Sokratis has been better than I thought he would have been when he came to Arsenal. He's shown at times he's not the guy, but he's been a better signing than when we was initially announced with him. Because I wasn't too fond of him, but I think he's all right now. But neither are really... Obviously, they're aged, they're not going to be here long term, so we need to look for someone anyways. Neither really convinced. If you were to put your hand on your heart, obviously form changes things, but if Arsenal fans were to be honest and say over a 38-game period, do they believe in Sokratis and David Luiz as a partnership to get them top four football or to improve in any way? I'm potentially sure if fans are honest with themselves, they would say that it wouldn't. I think Callum Chambers, he was one that was seen... I think Callum Chambers has done all right and he should earn a spot in the squad. He was someone that probably would have been available once upon a time for the right price. Don't get me wrong, if you see 20 to 30 or whatever million for Chambers, I might entertain it. But I think out of all of them, I would like to bring in, excluding Saliba, two new centre-halves, potentially someone 25 years of age, lesser profile and whatnot. And then obviously, if we can go for a big one in the summer, which won't, to go with Saliba and Chambers and Holding, that will give us about five centre-halves. Saying that, that's not going to happen, because do I believe, honestly, come the start of next season, David Luiz, Sokratis and Mustafi will all go? Potentially two of the three, potentially one of the three, and there'll be a difficult decision to be had. I think Luiz is here until his contract runs out purely because of where Arteta sees him personally, folks. I think Sokratis might be allowed to leave, and I think Mustafi is a case of if people want him. Off topic, people, I've got to show you this. It's so happy. I'm so happy the pigeons are over there messing with someone else today. You see what happens when you feed them and that. But moving forward now. Now, obviously, when you look at our centre-half options, they've turned it around, but I'm pretty sure other clubs, they would have thrown in young centre-halves, like you've got Tanganga at Spurs. And I'm not trying to beat Arsenal with one stick and praise others and whatnot, but it got me thinking, like, what going for our team, car? It speaks volumes that since Tony Adams, there's not really any centre-halves that have come through and made a career of themselves at Arsenal. In fact, there isn't really one standout name. There isn't. There actually isn't. And that's sad. We know the way Arsenal has been tailored, you're probably more favourable to get opportunities in the first team or just outright make it if you are an attacker. I mean, we can sit here and list old young players that didn't quite make the grade, players in the academy now. If you were to ask people to name defenders, they start scratching their heads. Fullbacks tend to get more of an opportunity before centre-halves, but especially with the way we've been playing in general, and not to beat Mustafi with a stick because he recovered well in the Chelsea game after the mistake, but you know he's not cut out. And it gets you thinking, at times it's got to the point at Arsenal with our centre-halves, you're thinking, obviously young players might not always be the answer, but surely there's a young centre-half there that can put in a better performance than what we've seen. Surely there's someone. And it got me thinking about Medley and Clarke. Now, for me, Harry Clarke signed for 100k or so from Ipswich in 2015 as a striker, gradually been working his way backwards, and is now, in the modern day, very much a composed ball-playing centre-half. He's not got I'd say Medley's the best ball player at Arsenal in the youth side with the centre-halves, but I think him or Ballard. I know Ballard's injury's taking him off a level, but they're the best out-and-out defenders. They might not be the splashy, but they look the most, you know, on defending. And I think Harry Clarke, if you're watching 23s, he's someone that's been standing out with his ball playing, with his courage, with his decent ability in the air. You hear how he's speaking about he's trained with the first team a couple times, asking Holding for tips and things. He said he was a United fan in his youth, so that might go against him. Maybe Arteta knows that already. But on a serious note, like, he would be a duck out of water in the Premier League. But it gets me thinking, like, why not use one of these young players? I'm not criticising the club for not, but like, what aren't they showing you? How off the pace are they, or can they do any worse? I think I really like Daniel Ballard as well as a natural defender. I think if you're talking about being a Rolls Royce, the present day centre half, the ball playing, the short and long range, the carrying out from the back, Medley's got that on lock, people. Medley can do that. For me, both of them, especially if they're not going to get chances, more so Medley, because he's got, what, 19 or something now? He's going to be 20 in July. I could be wrong and be an age off, but he needs to get first team football either in the Championship or at League One, because some of the things he does at 23s, he's not tested. Like sometimes defensively, he is very naive and he would learn harsh lessons in the Premier League. I actually think he would struggle to cope because he doesn't think like a defender. He was a winger or something previously at Chelsea and he's gradually moved back. He does put in good performances defensively, but he's prone to playing square passes, prone to getting caught in possession, prone to getting, you know, positioning always as an always there. He's very raw in that regards, but no worse than what you see from some of the more experienced players. For him, he needs to go out there and get some football, League One or Championship. The same for Clarke, and I'd be amazed. Well, he probably won't go on loan this season, but I'd be amazed if he did it next. I think for Medley, I know the window's almost done, and whether there's interest is another thing, but he's definitely got to go and play senior football, because if you're not getting an opportunity in Arsenal's youth, you were told to stay back by Bold because he obviously wanted you to stay and be a part of the 23s when it did look like he was going to go out on loan. For Arsenal it's good, but is it going to help you develop the most? And I think a lot of players need to ask themselves tough questions, but surely either player can get a look in. I like Clarke because he thinks like a defender. On the topic of defenders, Arteta, when pressed at his press conference in relation to Bournemouth, he said, "We're looking at different positions. Since I joined, we lost Callum and we had circumstances and injuries in those positions. So it's true that at the back we've been short." He then said as well, but there are other positions, depending on what happens in the market, we might need to assess. So he might be speaking about left fullback there, left back. At the moment, I'm 50-50 on if we'll sign someone because this window is complicated. I only want to bring in someone if I'm really convinced he can improve the level. And of course, the obvious is we need a centre-half. We could very much be in negotiations for one. Obviously, everybody knows Arsenal is desperate for a defender because of our situation. But you don't want to go out there in a window like January. It is difficult and say, you know, we're dying for a centre-half, because we're going to have to overpay for whether it's a top player, whether it's an unknown one. We're going to have to probably pay a bit more bob than we would have hoped to or wanted to if we had more time. But he's being a bit coy in that, people. We're impressed on the centre-back links, specifically the Ukrainian lad, who doing some research. He's done all right at left-back, allegedly, people. I've never watched him, well, beyond the Champions League, but he's done all right at full-back. So that could be an option that appeals to us as well. Because we are weak there. We don't know the real fitness with Kolasinac. Tierney's soon fresh home, but right now he's injured. Saka, you're hoping he stays and remains fit, but it's also a big ask on the young lad physically as well. And he will need to take a break, as a lot of people will. So yeah, man, he said, "I'm not going to be discussing any transfer links publicly. That's something we're trying to do internally, and we have news, we'll communicate with you." So I'm no in the know. I'm not saying we've got someone, but to a degree, there's no smoke without fire, people. That's completely different to when he completely shut down the Stones rumours. He said, "Yo, listen, Stones a good player, but it's a myth, innit?" Maybe a bit of that is to be respectful to Pep Guardiola, and he doesn't have that same allegiance to the Shakhtar guy of sorts. But you'd be inclined to believe when a man talks like that, he's not saying something's going to happen, but he is saying there could potentially be something to it, people. In relation to a couple of notes in relation to the Chelsea game, he said on what he learned about his players, he said, "The types of players that I have at the moment, with the attitude they have showed, the ability to react in difficult moments, and I think the joy was to watch from my side how much they won it, and they actually never gave up," which I can't disagree with that. He also, ironically, he took over. His first game was Bournemouth. It's been a month or so, and he goes to Bournemouth in the FA Cup. He said, "A lot of things that I wanted to implement, not just towards the players, but around the club in terms of culture. I'm seeing very good signs in progress. A lot of things about our way of playing and our style as well. Even though the circumstances in some games have made it a little more difficult than expected, but in general, I can see the direction towards what I wanted a month ago." So that's what it's about. We are seeing there are still a lot of concerns, there are still a lot of good things. This is why it's vital Arsenal fans look with balance. I feel we're too quick to say everything's negative and say everything's too positive when the truth is somewhere in the middle, folks. On Dani Ceballos though, he said, and I've spoken about Ceballos enough and really milked videos out of Dani Ceballos' situation, people. So I'm not going to go over the obvious, but on Ceballos, Arteta said, "I had a conversation with Danny when I joined the club. He wasn't here. He was in Madrid because he was doing his rehab for over a month. In Madrid with the team that owns him. And then when I came here, he was doing his rehab. And by the first 2 or 3 weeks, he was getting back to fitness. I haven't seen much of him because he's only trained with us for a week or 10 days, you know. It's very early to assess what I can and cannot do with him. I heard about all those things, but I have nothing to comment. And like with Aubameyang, the situations were different, but you heard him say, I want Aubameyang to stay, I want him to remain and things. And he doesn't really seem, he acknowledges that Ceballos is a good player, but it seems that he's not really, you know, he doesn't really, regardless of Lacazette's form, the way he talks about POGBA and all these other guys to Ceballos, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's like he don't really feel him. He acknowledges that he's a good technical player, but he clearly, for me, he's not beyond his ability. I don't think he's, maybe because he hasn't had a chance because of his injury, but I think he's waiting to see something from Ceballos, or he's seen something he doesn't like. Because again, the comments that stick with me about Ceballos, and I've said it in the previous videos, when he said, can't remember what game it was, but he said something along the lines of he was fit, but I elected not to use him in the squad, which was going to be on the bench. And you look at our bench, it's not necessarily the strongest. It's filled with a lot of kids, and no disrespect to the kids or Ceballos or Arteta's decisions, but you would be inclined to believe he doesn't really feel you. I'm inclined to believe he more wants to use him as a 10 as opposed to an 8. Joe Willock seems to be ahead of him in the pecking order. Ozil as well, regardless of what you say. Emile Smith-Rowe went out on loan, and Ceballos is still not getting football. So what does that say about what Arteta believes in Ceballos? If you don't rate him, you don't rate him. And I'm not saying he does, he doesn't. I'm just not seeing him play. He asked on whether he's part of his plans, and again, he could have said he's part of my plans, but he said he needs to get back to fitness and fight for his place like any other team. After that, we'll make a decision, and I think that is fair with what I see on the pitch. So I don't think he really cares for this Madrid thing. On one hand, obviously, Ceballos is only here on loan, so Arteta has to work with players that's going to be here long term. But for me, we spent 4.5 million on the loan sign of Ceballos. We might as well, well, it looks to be done here, but we might as well utilise him until it's done to help us get our goals, really, because I'm looking around the side, and in terms of creativity, not that Ceballos is amazing, but his skill set can be utilised at least until May. If he wants to cut short his loan spell, then fair enough. But whether he's here temporarily or not, we should probably utilise him in a bit more of a way until the season's done, and what he wants to do, then he can do. I don't want to play devil's advocate. Could it? I don't know if it's. I'm not saying it's an attitude problem, folks, but could it be he's not taken to Ceballos' attitude, or that I'm at Madrid and I'm busting out, I don't really care what Arsenal's doing? Does he have concerns over the commitment of Ceballos? I don't know, people. I'm just speculating. But on that note, I'm not going to do you lot a disservice. I said I'm going to be here on a quick thing. I was aiming for 5 minutes. Evidently, I've done too much. So on that note, I'm going to keep it moving. So from Deluded here in Soho Square, one of the most successful videos without these pigeons, I'm out. Enjoy your Friday and the rest of your day, weekend and the rest of it. And I'll probably catch you lot again with some other YouTube vids. But if I don't, you know the review against Bournemouth is coming. You know the preview against Bournemouth is coming. So make sure you've got the alert buttons and all the notification things on YouTube. And you're subscribed to all my other social media things. Links here in the description if you don't have that. DG Nation, Deluded, I'm out. God bless.